Okay, so continuing on today, we are going to talk about linear models. I'm going to go through this quickly because it's pretty much Algebra 1. And so I don't even know how much notes you're going to have to take because you should be able to do things like the equation of a line, the slope of a line, that kind of stuff. But we'll go over it together just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Good? Problems?
No.
How's the day been going so far?
Horrible.
Why?
I don't know. It's been like cold in school and then hot in some classes, and I'm just tired of this temperature. Like it's hot in this class, but then I know when I go to sociology, it's gonna be cold in there.
You want to take a blanket with you? I have blankets.
I have a
Sweater.
sweater.
Okay. So what's the problem then? You got to put a sweater on.
No, but it's like every class is different, and I'm just like I'm tired of like being
So
cold
much work
and
putting
sweating.
it on and taking it off.
I know.
I get it. Whereas if you were home, your home is one temperature.
Right?
Oh, I get it.
And
The
it's just like,
struggle is real.
yeah.
Slope equation. Any problems? Let's talk about why is the slope of a vertical line undefined? Have you done this before? What's the slope of a horizontal line, by the way? Zero. Why is the slope of a vertical line undefined?
Because it goes up infinite but doesn't go over any.
But a horizontal line
It goes
goes
over zero, so it's like a number over zero.
Ah, okay, good. Because if you look at the equation, the x values are the same for a vertical line. We would have a number over zero, and for the most part, that's undefined for us. We will get into some weird stuff later on where we talk about what is 0 over 0. Okay. So what is 0 over 0? We can talk about it now.
Zero.
Okay, so one possibility is it's an error. You can't do it because the denominator is equal to 0. Another argument would that it would be 0 because, why?
0 divided into 0 parts is 0.
Okay. Any other answers?
It's 1.
Could be 1 because
It's the same on top of top.
numerator and denominator match. Okay. And what we'll learn later is that there are a variety of different answers. None of those is necessarily going to work for us. But for now, we're going to consider anything over 0 to be undefined. And that's why the vertical line has an undefined slope. Well, you knew that already, right? Good. And again, like I said, this is very much Algebra 1. Positive slope on the left, horizontal slope of 0. Next one over, negative slope. And then finally, the vertical line has an undefined slope. Equations of lines, two main equations of lines, slope-intercept and point-slope form. Which do you prefer?
Point-slope.
Point-slope, excellent answer. If you are not a point-slope fan, I cannot encourage you enough to switch over. If you're one of those people that loves y equals mx plus b, your life will be made a lot easier if you could switch to point-slope form. Okay, which is that? Y equals y1 equal, y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. The point is x1, y1. The slope is m minus. The nice thing about point-slope form is that if you do point-slope form and you miss slope-intercept form tremendously, you can easily convert that into slope-intercept form. Going the other way is not that easy. I feel bad you're sitting by yourself as I sit down. All right, go ahead and do that. Just because it's so ridiculously simple, let's do it in two forms. Give me an answer in point-slope form and an answer in slope-intercept form. If you're feeling saucy, put it in general form. The most useless form ever. Hopefully your table's in agreement, yes? Any dissension in the ranks?
Oh yeah, I forgot how hard your table is. Should be y equals.
We're all in agreement here? Ridiculously simple? Yes? Good, good. Let's see. Y plus 2 is equal to 3 times the quantity x minus 1. How'd I do?
Good.
Okay, good. Y equals 3x minus 3 minus 5.
Yep.
Beautiful. Two different forms. Which one's more corrector? Well, it's not necessarily, it's easier, but not more correct, either one. AP doesn't care what form you want to leave an answer in. However, they have this weird thing. Let's suppose you really like slope-intercept form. And you solve a problem and you have this as an answer, and then in your next step, because you can't give this up because you feel a true allegiance to it, you decide I'm going to put that into this form and you write it as y equals 3x plus 5. Guess what? No credit. So don't do that. Once you have your answer, regardless of what form it's in, whether this is your first form or this is your first form, leave it in that form. Okay? We did the solution already. Let me get this out of the way. Okay. Question?
Wait, so what's the AP test for this class look like again? Is it like 2 different tests?
Death on paper.
Is there like a multiple choice one? And then
4 parts.
There's 4 parts.
Yeah. There's calculator, free response, show your work, 2 of those. Non-calculator, free response, 4 of those. That's a half hour of bliss, followed by an hour of bliss. Then you have a calculator multiple choice, that's usually about 45 minutes. And then a non-calculator multiple choice, which is usually about 50 to 55 minutes.
That's like,
4 chunks.
seems like a really good day.
Oh,
Good day for us. I'm
Yeah.
excited.
It'll be awesome.
Can't wait.
It's usually about 3.5 to 4 hours long. It's one of the nastier ones out there. But you're all going to rock it, so there's nothing to worry about. Subtle difference here. Difference between a ratio and a rate of change. Okay. And as it says up there, and I don't know if you've ever made a distinction between the two, and this isn't earth-shatteringly important, but just so that we're using the right terminology, if the units cancel, you have a ratio. So if you're comparing dogs to dogs, the units of dogs would cancel, and we're talking about a ratio. However, if you're talking about something that has different units of measure, dogs per family, now that's what's called a rate of change. Okay, we're going to deal a lot with rates of change. How much does X change as Y changes? So now we got Colorado. Did I go too fast? Sorry. All you got to do is say something.
Okay.
All it requires is I just click a button and go back. Okay, good? Are you writing every word on there? Don't do that. Summarize. Ratio, same units. Rate of change, different units. Done. Move on. Okay, so we got Colorado, we got some population, we got some years. Will this be a ratio or a rate of change? It's a rate of change because we're comparing 2 different units, people to years. Calculate that, please. Oh, by the way, it also says rate of change in the problem. Your ratios and your rates of change should be simplified. So just as a little bit of calculator practice there, please give me an exact answer in a fraction form and give me a decimal approximation. I want to see if you know how to use your calculator to simplify fractions.
Isn't it? Look.
As you're working, should our answer be positive or negative? Why positive?
Because it's an increase number.
Thank you very much. You could conceivably set it up so that you have a negative over a negative, but we all know that a negative over a negative is still a positive.
Whoa, 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 easy there. 4, 6, 6, 5, 0, 0, 0, 9, 3.
What's the fractional form of that answer? I guess I should ask, do you all know how to do that on your calculator?
That.
Does anybody not know? Okay, good talk. 4665000 minus 3827000 divided by 10 equals math, enter, enter. Puts it into a fraction form of what? Phil?
Oh, 838,000.
Done. Yes?
We have
Over 10.
83,800, yeah.
One would be over 10.
So is yours over 10, Phil?
Yeah,
Which would make it this, right?
yeah.
What are my units? Say again? People per year. Peeps per year. So in this case, since it simplifies nicely, we get an exact answer and a fractional answer, quote unquote fractional answer being the same. Now, suppose you get an answer that's not exact. Suppose I got an answer like 83,800.7. What do you do with that? Do you leave it as 83,800.7? Why not? Well, you can. It's just illegal in most states. And it's messy. Would you round up or round down? Oh, I love arguments. Okay, so you're saying round down because you don't have a whole person, so you just get rid of that 0.7 of a person? And you're saying round up, you're going to go find 0.3 of a person? And just stick it on to
Well,
them?
like, if you like, in like 2 years, then that's like 1.4, so like, you know, they'd be missing at least one person, you know, but in 2 years they would be.
And then that's going to grow over time.
Yeah.
So then 0.7 becomes 1.4 becomes 2.1 because next thing you know, you're missing the whole village.
Yeah.
So you would round up.
Yeah.
What would we do mathematically? Round up because it's greater than 0.5. Okay. But again, that's a perfect answer. We don't have to worry about it. Let's move on. Oh, we did that already. There it is. Nice. And again, that's a rate of change. Get this mess out of the way. Okay, now we got ski slope. Not a ski slope, what do you call that? Water ski jumping. Water ski ramp. Rises at a height of 6 feet and is 21 feet long. Slope of the ski ramp is the ratio of its height to the length of its base. Anything difficult about that? Rise over run, yes? Would it be 6 over 21 or 21 over 6? 6 over 21. Is that an acceptable answer? No. 2 over 7. Simplify your ratios. If you're not good at simplifying your ratios, use your calculator. If it's not a non-calculator portion of a test or a quiz, learn how to simplify ratios. In case you couldn't do that, there you go. No units, right? Because it's a ratio. Feet over feet cancels. Just a ratio. Rate of change versus ratio. Do you feel like I'm beating a dead horse here? Yeah, okay. I'll go faster. Graphing linear models. Can you graph that? Can you sketch that graph? I should say. Y-intercept of
1.
slope of 2, up 2 over 1. Great. What's that look like? Horizontal or vertical?
Sorry, so I did this, yeah.
That would be horizontal.
Yeah.
Because this doesn't translate very well onto the video. Horizontal. What's the equation of any vertical line?
X equals.
Beautiful. Could you graph that? How? Was it right? So you'd solve for y. Okay? Would anybody just plug and chug? You can. How many points do I need in order to graph that line? 2. Doesn't matter what 2 points. Plug 0 in for x, plug 0 in for y. Get the intercepts, graph the equation. Put a gabillion in for x, solve for y. Put whatever you want in for x, solve for y. But you probably don't want to use a gabillion. General form, number 1, icky, we'll never use it. Like it says, it's not necessary. And then you know everything else. For those of you who have had an excellent geometry teacher, you will know this already. What's the slope of parallel lines? Equal perpendicular lines? Opposite reciprocals. There they are. Or, going back to perpendicular, what's more helpful in my humble opinion is if you have 2 lines and you want to know if they're perpendicular, if you multiply the slopes together, you should get -1. That's more helpful than trying to figure out if 12/7 is the same as 4,200 over whatever that other number would be. So, sorry, bad example. Multiply them together, if you get -1, they're perpendicular. If they're the same, they're parallel. If they're not, then they just intersect. Summarized in a blue rectangle, so that must be important. Moving on. Any problems there? What's the slope of that line in parts A and B? How would you find the slope? Is anybody going to answer me? Solve for y. Beautiful. It's not rocket science. However, in advanced algebra, you may have learned that sneaky trick working with general form to figure out what the slope is from that general form, right? Yeah, I never remember it. I solved for y. Bring the 2x to the other side, divide by 3, so we should get 2 thirds?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. Which I believe is -a over b out of general form. Again, I never remember that. And so if the slope is 2 thirds, then the perpendicular slope would be -3/2. All done? Okay. Told you, Algebra 1. Was there anything in that slideshow that you haven't seen before? No? Beautiful. Okay, so for the rest of the period, let's, shorter period today too, so let's spend the rest of the period knocking out this day 3 homework, which will reduce the amount of stuff you have to do over the weekend. On Monday, as I said, we'll do a damage control, go over page 1, 2, 3, and make sure you get all your questions answered. Life is grand.
Okay.